Hey, good morning. Good Thursday morning, everybody. I am Rob Borden. I'm on the staff here at church. If you have not seen me do a devotion before, I haven't done one for probably almost 2 weeks now. Normally on Thursday mornings, you're going to get Pastor Aaron, our Three Springs pastor. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately for you, but fortunately for us and for Aaron, he's actually doing a training today on planting churches. So his time, I know, and I've heard so far, has been going great and will be well spent doing that. And he asked me, or asked anybody, if they'd be willing to jump in and take over for him today. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So welcome. And you will have a chance, and you can, I know some of you join us every day or every week at least, and you can jot comments or say good morning or whatever in the lines or the boxes below. And I won't respond to them while I'm doing the devotion. However, after we're done, I will go in and make sure I say good morning or see if you have any questions or if you need anything or whatever the case may be. I will follow up with everybody who signs in while you're watching. So, yeah, this week it's been a little truncated because of Labor Day. There wasn't a devotion on Monday, but so we're on day 3. And the series for the week is on Martha. And, we've been doing the Enneagram now for a few weeks. It's kind of been our sermon series. And this week was number 8. And which I honestly don't know too much about. I'm actually a number 1. For whatever reason, that's where I scored. And there's several of us here at the church that are 1s. And so we kind of like to be the ones that have things organized and in control and all of that. Of course, nothing really is in our control. God has everything taken care of. We just like to pretend that it's kind of our thing to handle. But anyhow, so for those of you who have joined in, I normally do every other Friday. So and Jake will do tomorrow, and I'll be back next Friday. But for those of you who have been able to jump on when I've done them, I like to read the scriptures that we have each day, and then maybe stop and pause along the way and focus on a couple of the verses within those scriptures and share some things, some thoughts, maybe ask you a question. That's one of the things I like to do is have you kind of participate from a distance by answering a question or sharing something. We've talked about your favorite hikes and things like that over the period of time I've been doing these. But so I do have a question for you today, and you're going to get a chance to hopefully respond to that in the box. And then, like I said earlier, I will respond to your reply. So with that said, we're in 2 Corinthians. Of course, everybody probably knows, maybe not, that Corinthians are letters that Paul wrote to the people of Corinth as he was going around and really trying to spread the word of God. And if nothing else, it seems to me to kind of keep the churches going, like, hey, you can do this. Jesus, God is there. Jesus is there. Hang in there. You can get through these difficult struggles that you may have. And so this is from 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 30. And basically, today, the verses that I'm reading, the theme is kind of weakness or strength. And that's going to lead into my question I'm going to have for you here in just a minute. But let me start by reading 23 to 30. So, and Paul writes, "Are they servants of Christ? I know I sound like a madman." And that's the thing about Paul. He was kind of a madman, but in a good way. But I have served him far more. I have worked harder, been put in prison more often, been whipped times without number, and faced death again and again. 5 different times, the Jewish leader gave me 39 lashes. And I tried to do a little research. I'm like, where, because that's a specific number. It's not like he said, well, they gave me about 40 or 50, somewhere in there. They gave him 39. So I tried to figure out, is there like some correlation to that in some fashion? And I really couldn't find anything. So anyhow, 39 lashes, which obviously is plenty. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. And once I spent the whole night and day adrift at sea. I have traveled on many long journeys. I have faced danger from rivers and robbers. I have faced danger from my own people, the Jews, as well as from Gentiles. I have faced dangers in the cities, in the deserts, and on the sea. So he's pretty much got it covered. Everywhere he went, he was in danger. And I have faced danger, which is probably the hardest one, I think, from men who claim to be believers that are not. I mean, you can kind of see if there's you're out in the desert or wherever, and there's like a wild animal, or your boat looks like it's going to shipwreck. You can see that danger, but man, you cannot see the danger that lies in other people's hearts. So, boy, that hidden danger is really hard to overcome. And I think for me, at least, and this may be one of my strengths, but sometimes when you have a strength, there's going to be a weakness to offset it. But one of my strengths is I generally feel like I can read people pretty well, and get a good sense of who they are or their character fairly quickly. But the weakness to that is that maybe sometimes I kind of judge somebody too quickly, good or bad, and I'm totally off base. So again, you get a strength, there's going to be a weakness to offset it. The other way, you have a weakness, there's going to be a strength to balance that out. I've been hungry and I've been thirsty. I've often gone without food. I've shivered in the cold without enough clothes to keep me warm. Then besides all of this, I mean, if that's not enough to make you want to just give up, I have the daily burden of my concern for all the churches, which is what I had said earlier. He's trying to keep those churches pumped up, man. Just keep going, keep going. We can get through this. Who is weak without my feeling that weakness? Who is led astray, and I do not burn with anger? If I must boast, I would rather boast about the things that show how weak I am. And can any of us imagine boasting about our weaknesses? It's not, I mean, sometimes, we're humble, we're modest, and we'll say, man, I am not any good at that. That is a weakness of mine. Sometimes for folks and for us, it's a false modesty because we say we're not good, but we kind of believe or think that we are. I know I'll do that sometimes. I'll say, well, I'm not really good at that. But it's like, no, I kind of am, but I don't want to brag about it. So I'll just say I'm not very good. But and that's the kind of the whole part of this today, at least, and really kind of throughout the week. Again, the message is overcoming our weaknesses, embracing our weaknesses, and giving those up to God. And know that, you know what? He loves your weaknesses, because that's when he can really be there for you. Sometimes when we have strengths, or we perceive we have strengths, we feel, oh, I don't need God. I don't need anybody here. I got this covered. It's good. I got it, man. But when we have weaknesses, who do we turn to? Our family, our friends, and God. So, and he knows before we even turn to him what our weaknesses are, because he knows all. So anyhow, the second verse I'm going to read is also from 2 Corinthians. This is chapter 12, 7-10. So it's a little shorter verse. Even though I have received such wonderful revelations from God. I'm sorry. I'm going to actually start with 6 because of these. But I won't do it because I don't want anybody to give me credit beyond what they can see in my life or hear in my message. There's the humility. Even though I have received such wonderful revelations from God. So to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. So this thorn in the flesh is really, I guess, a metaphor. I don't think that it means he actually had a thorn in his flesh, because he could just pull it out. I mean, he's talking about something that's persistent and ongoing, and he really struggled with overcoming. And some folks, when I say folks, I mean biblical scholars and things like that, feel like he maybe had some sort of an affliction, like malaria or epilepsy or some disease and he prayed and he prayed and he asked for God to relieve him of this pain or the suffering, and God didn't. But instead of being bitter about it, Paul said, well, that's my weakness. I need to overcome that and continue to spread the word of God. So here you go. Okay, so 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away, which was this affliction or disease. Each time God said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weaknesses. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And so let's do that one again. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And it's sort of, again, what I was just saying here, when we feel like we're working with strengths and we're strong, and sometimes we can get too proud, or we think we can do it all ourselves and we don't need anybody else, that's when we're probably going to take a fall, right? How many times have you said, I got this, I know what I'm doing, I don't need you, and oops, I failed. Actually, I guess I do need you. So, but it's hard to do that. It's human nature to just pick ourselves up with our bootstraps and just plug on. So, so my question for you today, and hopefully if you feel comfortable writing a response in the down below on your screen, or however you're watching it, is what would you say is a weakness of yours? But then I really want to hear a strength that can offset that. Because like I said earlier, if you have a weakness, there's always a strength to offset that, and vice versa. So what would be a weakness of yours and a strength you have to offset it? So like I said, a weakness of mine is sometimes I make judgments on people and their personality or their character or their abilities, and I'm wrong. The strength to that is, sometimes I'm right, and it really helps set the tone for a relationship or a conversation or whatever it might be. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is make just a couple of announcements that you may or may not be aware of already, but our last outdoor worship service will be next Sunday, September 20th, not this 3 days from now, but 10 days from now. The registration is up on the church website. If you'd like to join us, please RSVP in advance. We still, even though we haven't come close to maxing out, we still have to honor the numbers that we're allowed to have by the health department and things like that, even though it's a pretty large number, but for outdoors. And then even more exciting than that is we are going to start indoor worship services here in the sanctuary the weekend of October 3rd and 4th. That will be a Saturday night at 5:30 and a Sunday morning at 9. So a couple things to be aware of. We are still taking RSVPs for that because we're really limited on indoor space. We can only have 50 people attend each service. That's it. So we really need, in those RSVPs, those will come out in a couple weeks. You don't need to worry about that right now. But so just to be aware, for both, we have 50 people at 5:30 and 50 people at 9 a.m. And but if you can't make it, or you're not comfortable, or whatever the case may be, we're still going to live stream those services. They'll still be recorded. And then we'll also do an 11 o'clock service as well. The 5:30 and the 9 will be contemporary services, and the 11 o'clock will stick with our traditional service. So October 3rd and 4th for that. Keep an eye out for it. Still indoors, we're still going to have the same restrictions as outdoors, which is you have to wear a face covering. And at first, we're still going to have you bring your own chair, just to kind of, it will be a little easier for setup and clean up afterwards and things like that. But eventually, you won't have to do that. But to begin with, we're still going to have you bring your own chairs to come for indoor worship as well. So that is it. I will, after I'm done, I'll slide on over and kind of say good morning and read your responses and reply. And I really hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you're healthy and safe. I hope your family is doing okay. If you have any prayer requests, please put them in the box below, or you can email me at rob, R-O-B-B, at summitdurango.org, and I will respond and I will lift you up, or your family or your friends, or whatever the case may be. So be blessed. Thanks for joining, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.